Hey everyone, and welcome to the Uncut series. I'm so happy that you guys have joined in with us on today. As you are coming in, be sure to like, comment, and tag someone and let us know where you all are joining us from. I'm super excited about tonight's conversation. But before we even get into all of that, let me just quickly introduce myself. For those that do not know, my name is 𝗲𝗲𝗫𝗀𝗏. I am the CEO and founder of Uncut Youth. And if you are new to one of our conversations that we host on a monthly basis, let me just tell you a little bit about Uncut. We are a youth empowerment and mentoring organization that is designed to help youth uncover their best self, unlock their fullest potential, to ultimately unleashing them into their destiny. And so we do service youth between the ages of 10 to 17 in the DMV area. And one of the things that I love about Uncut is that we are dedicated to creating an unorthodox pathway for youth metamorphosis and transformation. And so we like to have these conversations called the Uncut series, where we can talk about anything and everything that's affecting our youth, from emotional, economical, educational, social issues, anything and everything. And so on tonight, I'm so excited that we're going to be talking all about money. And if I can be honest with you guys, there is a sad reality that many of our youth today don't have the financial literacy that they need to truly navigate in our world today. From properly managing their money, to saving, to budgeting, to allowances, from credit to knowing about investment, stock, understanding needs versus wants, and mostly valuing money. And so, with April being Financial Literacy Month, I thought it would be a perfect time to kind of have a dialogue around money, so that our youth can be educated on the value of money, understanding and getting them in a position for a financial success and a financial journey in their future. So like I said, we're talking all about money on tonight. I'm so excited about my special guest. He is a young entrepreneur that is killing the game. I have had the privilege of watching him grow up. And so tonight is even special, is more special because not only do I know him personally, but I have watched him grow up into be an amazing young man. And I hope that you guys can receive him on tonight. So without me doing any more talking, I am going to bring up to the stage 𝗀𝗫 Bennett, CEO 𝗀𝗫. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And yes, I'm doing really well, doing great, fantastic, and I'm blessed.
Awesome, awesome. So before we get into tonight's conversation, I told the people I wasn't going to tell how well I know you and go all the way back, but this is a special conversation. But tell us a little bit about yourself before we just dive into our conversation.
Yeah. So I'm a 19-year-old entrepreneur. I trade options in the stock market, and I help young adults and teenagers make $100 to $1,000 a day trading options in the stock market and tapping into their potential and what they actually could do rather than what they're doing now.
Awesome, awesome. So I hope if there are any parents on the line and you have kids, bring your kids into this conversation on tonight. So there's something not just for you, but also for them.
Yeah,
So 𝗀𝗫, we're just gonna get to it, okay, if you don't mind. Because
let's get
we got
to
a
it.
lot of questions and I want to try to get to as many as we can on tonight. So the first thing, since this conversation is all about money, there is a common misnomer that children often hear: money doesn't grow on trees. Okay,
Mm,
but they truly don't understand that concept. So
yeah.
with money being finite, how would you explain the value of money to your younger siblings or even to your peers?
The value of money is only valuable attached to whatever you pay for. So for example, we value things like at Walmart as very discounted, cheap, and not as costly. But if we go to Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and all these designer stores, the prices are super high. And we look at that and say, dang, prices are so.
Okay, I think we just lost him for a quick bit. All right, so we did lose him. Hopefully he will come back on. But while we wait for him to come back on, I want to hear from you guys. Since tonight's conversation is all about money, share some of your questions that you have with us so that we can address them on tonight. So we do have him back. So welcome back.
Yes. I don't know
It's
what happened. Something's going on, but we're gonna push through it.
it's all good. It's all good. So you were talking about the value of money.
Yes. So the value of money is attached to whatever the payoff is for. So if I put a certain amount of money into something, I don't just buy something and get something equal value back. I want to get something that's worth more of the value. So for example, if I want to buy water and I already have plenty of water at home, I might only want to pay $1 or maybe a couple cents for water. But for example, if I'm in the desert, then water now becomes super expensive. Now I'm willing to pay 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, even for like a cup or a gallon of water, whatever it is, if I don't have enough of it. So money is only attached to the value necessarily. So for example, money. So if I give you $1 and you give me $1 back, and then I give you $1, you give me $1 back, we're just exchanging $1. So it doesn't really make sense. But if I give you $1 and then you give me $2 back, I'm willing to do that over and over again. So
Mhm.
money is an interesting thing because money is kind of, the more money we have, obviously the less valuable it is. So the more scarce something is, the higher the value. So money is being printed constantly by the government and by multiple people in multiple different countries. So the value of the dollar is actually decreasing. So in order for us to actually maintain wealth and maintain money and keep it circulating, it has to be put into something that is worth more than what it is. So if I spend $1, I don't want to get $1 back. I want to get $2,
Mm, okay, okay. We did just lose him once again. Um, So we're going to push through these technical difficulties. I'm not sure if it's his location or not. Here he comes back again. But we're
I
going to
don't know
push
why
through it
that's
because we know
happening.
that there is something that he has to say. And
Yeah.
so this has never happened. So keep going, Ashawn.
Of course, the devil's definitely trying to get in the middle of this right now, and it's all
Definitely.
good. It's all good. Um, but basically, what we were talking about money, right? Like the
Yeah.
value of it.
Yeah.
So again, like if you only want to buy something, if you spend $1, expect to get something of more value back. So for example, like I said with the desert example, water now is more valuable than the money that I have because of the necessity for it. So money is only valuable if there's something else attached to it. So otherwise money is just useless anyway.
Okay. Okay. So I often see that, to build on that, that teens sometimes struggle with deciphering the difference between their needs versus their wants.
Yes.
And truth be told, I think that since we're talking about financial literacy and money, that this is a great way. Understanding the difference between your needs and your wants is a great starting point for understanding financial literacy and being on a path. But can you share some of what you would consider the differences between your needs and a wants, especially for young people?
Yeah. So, for example, living things that you need are things that are, if you do not have it, you will either be sick, you will be ill, you will pass away, something that you need to survive. So, for example, food, water, medicine, medical attention, whatever that is, that's a necessities. So, for
Hmm.
example, for kids that are 10 to 17, in most households, for the most part, I'm not going to say all, but most households, typically the parents are already covering their needs. So, for example, providing a
Hmm.
roof over their head, providing them food and water, providing them with shelter, providing them with clothes on their back and stuff like that. So those needs are met already.
Right.
So most of the time in kids' lives or teens' lives, they don't really have needs. They don't really have needs. They only have wants, because
Mm,
typically their needs are already taken care of. So the things that they think are needs are just emotionally driven wants. So
mm,
for teens, typically needs equal emotionally driven wants. So you're emotionally driven, like, dang, I really want those pair of shoes. Or I need to go to this concert, or I need to go hang out with my friends. That's not a need, a necessity. It's like you really, really, really want it, which isn't saying it's bad, but make sure you characterize your needs and wants properly based on if it's a life or death situation. Not like just an exaggerated, like, oh my God, I'll die if I don't see Justin Bieber or
right,
something like that. Or like, oh,
right,
I'll die if I don't see this person. Like,
right.
it's, compare it like that.
I like how you put that though, that needs are emotionally driven by your wants, especially for
Yeah.
young people. And if I can be honest, once again, especially with being in a pandemic for 2 years and knowing how that affected our economy financially, but then the stress, I know when I've worked with young people, watching them see the aftermath of their parents losing their jobs or there being some type of financial strain in the home because of COVID or because of the
Yeah.
pandemic. I found an article that said about 72% of young people says that finances stresses them out, but
Yes.
even more as a result of the pandemic. And so,
Mm.
because of the pandemic, it has put some young people, it is put on the radar to save more, or
Yeah.
to think about not just now, but how to think about a future. And so, what are some good practices that youth can start develop to really begin to save?
Um, Good practices to develop when it comes to saving. I feel like that just comes down to just that's just the discipline part. So, for example, if you get money in, if you're disciplined to say, all right, I'm gonna set this money aside so I can invest it, or so I can put it aside, so I can save it to do something with it that'll make it increase in its value later on. That's something that has to come with discipline. And I feel like most kids or most teens, especially myself, like when you already given so many things, why do I gotta save anyway? Because you're already in a
Mm,
state of comfort, because you're already everything's already paid for. But now if you're in a position where you need to pay for stuff, then it's saving is important. Like I actually recently had to deal with that too, where it's like, so when I got to Atlanta, for example, I moved in with my dad basically. I moved down here with my dad. So I was just spending money left and right on
mhm,
mentorships and one-on-ones and all this stuff. And I wasn't focused on saving. I was just focused on taking the money that I get and investing it, obviously, on into information basically to get as much information as I possibly can. And I spent $22,000 last year on just information and stuff. And I'm
mhm,
just like, and it got to it, but now I'm actually about to get a new place. I'm about to get eventually a car soon. Like and pay for the actual car myself, pay for the car, everything, get a loan out, get a whole new car, and probably use
mhm,
that to write off on my insurance. But we'll get into that later. But like, so a new car, a new house, and all that stuff. So now it's like, okay, my bills are about to increase. So
mhm,
because my bills are increasing, and I actually have needs that I have to pay for, so I need a house. I need to get this now saving is more vital. But before it was just all right, all the money I got in was just I could just redistribute that and just boom, boom, boom because I didn't need to. But once that
mm.
need came in, that's when it became important.
Okay. Okay. So, let's expound on that a little bit. How could
Of course.
for a child or even a teenager that may be in your situation, right? That says they have everything handed to them, like you said, what's the point of even saving, right? But
Yeah.
how can we teach them even at a young age how to value saving and the importance of saving, but more so how to spend wisely.
That comes through repetition. So, for example, it's on the parents' jobs and the parents' responsibility to repetitively train that into their children. So, for example, I'm a product of my mom and a product of my dad. I'm a
Mhm,
product of their how they raised me, what they teach me, and stuff like that. I'm a product of that because it was repetition. So repetitively. So, for example, if I did something wrong, it was all right. You got a whooping, and then you got punishment, and then you got this taken away. So it was a repercussion to what I did that repetitively kept happening until I got to a point where I said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to be good. I'm just going to behave myself basically.
right.
So repetition is how you actually learn it, because here's the thing about children. They don't care what they're necessarily learning. They just care how many times it's been taught. So for example, if a kid
Mm,
is 0 years old, or they're a couple months old to 1 years old to 5 years old, if that kid is around people that speak Japanese, right? No matter if they're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, doesn't matter. If they're surrounded by Japanese people that speak Japanese for days, weeks, months, years until they're 18, guess what they're going to speak? Japanese.
Japanese. Mm-hmm.
Because not because of their ethnicity, not because of who they are, but because of what they were around and the repetition that they
Mm,
had to deal with that. So in order for you want your kids to invest, can repetitively talk about investing, repetitively show them and put them into environments where it's like, all right, saving can get me this, or saving can get me this. The reason I'm so oriented around entrepreneurship and business is because I hang around people that talk about business a lot, and I don't hang around people that really aren't. So my environment, the repetition, is shaping me and building me up to program me to say, this is what I need to do. So if you want your kids to invest, surround them with investing. So whether it's YouTube videos, whether it's connecting them with friends that are already investing, make it cool to them. Like, get them repetitively in the mindset that this is cool to do this, or this is
mm,
necessary. Even if they don't understand it, if you program it to their mind, like repetition, 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 invest, 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 save, 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 they will save because they're
absolutely.
repetitively getting that. So it's going to absorb into them. So that's what I recommend.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. And you talked about so two things. You were sharing that since you moved to Atlanta, it kind of disciplined you later on to now begin to save more, to focus on what you're getting ready to accomplish, buying a house, buying a car, and so forth.
Yes.
And so I'm sure, having these goals and working towards that, I'm sure you had to have a budget, right?
Yeah.
So if we could just talk a little bit about budgeting,
Yeah.
because I think with financial literacy, not only is it important to know the value of money, but to be able to save. And I liked how you said the repetition part. If you want your children to save, if you want to teach them, you have to be repetitive in your behavior. You have to teach them and model that behavior. But
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about budgeting? Because I know when I was growing up, I didn't budget my money. I just spend, 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 spend. So,
Yeah.
um, talk a little bit about that for us.
Okay, so I'll say this. If you are between the ages of, let's say you're making money at 1 years old. If you just got a business, you 1 years old, congrats to you. I don't know how you do that, but congrats. So one to, let's say, I'd say 16,
Mhm.
1 to 16 years old, take 50% of your money that you get. So if you get paid, let's say you get paid $5, $10 for something, right? 50% of that $5, you set that aside to save it away and just put that away. Now, if you do need something, have 20% of that set that aside for something that you need. So set aside $2 for something you need. The $3, that's what you can spend on whatever you want to spend on your wants, video games, whatever that is. Now, the reason I say save and like set that aside 50%, because you need to save majority of your money, because I know this was me as a kid. I was a kid too at one point. So here's what happened. I would spend money, didn't have a budget, and then something that I wanted or something that I could get that would actually help me in some way, shape, or form pops up out of nowhere. Y'all seen it on TV, commercials, and all these things. I'm like, dang, I really wish I could get that. But
Right.
I didn't save up for that. So now if
Mm.
we practice saving at a young age, saving up for, I don't know, like a freaking like a skateboard or electric skateboard
Mhm.
or something like that. Like, we really want an electric skateboard. In order to get that, we can't get $10 and spend, let's say, eight or a whole 10 and then expect to get save up for a skateboard. That's not how it works. You have to set aside
Mhm.
majority of your money, take a sacrifice, and then example, you
Mm.
get the end result. And the key is be okay with being imbalanced, because finances are
Mm.
never balanced. So if you're balanced, that means you're in a state of even. So for example, if you get $10, you spend $10. That's even. I mean, you literally get 10, you spend 10. If you get 20, you spend 20. That's even. That's balanced. But
Oh.
if you're imbalanced, that means you get 10 and you're setting aside five, or you're setting aside six, you're setting aside seven, $8 out of that 10, and you're spending two. That's how rich get richer, because they save or they put aside the money that they have and they invest it into something else that's going to make them more money. And then from there, the cash flow that they get, the money that's cash flow, as in money that they get that is just strictly profit. That's what cash flow is. So money, that the cash flow that they get, now they can spend money on that. So let's say, for example, you making let's say you make $100 for cutting 5 like for 5 people's grass, you get $100. Out of that $100, set aside $50 just to save it. Set it off to the side. Now, every week, let's say every week you do 5 people's grasses. So week 1, you do 5 people's grasses, get $100, set aside $50. Week 2, you do the same thing, $100. Week 3, $100. Week 4, $100. So that means you set aside $50 4 times. That's $200. Now you have $200 to go buy that skateboard that you want to get, or buy that thing that you want to purchase, but you still have money that you have set aside for your needs, and then that little bitty thing that you can use for wants, like maybe going to the movies, maybe getting some food, whatever it is that you want to get, right? So that's the key to when it comes to budgeting. And also, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
I said 1 to 16, so I forgot about the 17 to 18, 19, 20s, like, starting to get older, right? Once you become an adult. Now, when you're 16 and 18, I want you to start practicing setting aside so if you get $10, set aside $3 to $4 for taxes, right? Set $3 to $4 out of that $10 for taxes. After you set that stuff aside for taxes, then you take another $3 and then you save that. And then the other $3 that you have, you spend it. So if you have $10, if I give you $10, set aside $4 for taxes, set aside $3 for savings, and set aside the other $3 for whatever you want to buy. So now you're saving money to invest into something that can make you money. You're setting aside $4 for taxes so you can pay your taxes, and then the other $3 you can use that to spend. And I know you getting $10, it's like, dang, I want to go buy this, and this.
Right.
But anytime, and it's hard. It's not going to be easy, but easy is never is like. I learned this principle from one of my mentors. It's called the easy hard principle. If it's easy on the front end, it's hard on the back end. And if it's hard on the front end, it'll be easy on the back end. So what that basically means is, if it's easy to do something, it's going to be harder later. So for example, if I'm lazy now, it's easy. I could just chill, kick my feet up, don't gotta save nothing. I could just get money, spend it, do whatever I want, right? That's easy. But later on, it's gonna be hard to get a place. It's gonna be hard to pay back my taxes. It's gonna be hard to get certain things that I want because I didn't save, I didn't prepare, I didn't budget, I didn't invest like I was supposed to. So it's easy on the front end, on the front of it, but then on the back later on, it's gonna be harder. But if it's harder on the front, you're working hard. You're making sure you're saving money. You're making sure you're investing. You're making sure you're setting aside your money for taxes, so you don't gotta owe the IRS and they're not knocking on your door like, "Hey, where's my money?" Like, you setting that stuff aside, they will do it. Especially when you're making a lot of money too. Like they really will. Like, you set that money aside on the hard. That's the hard on the front end. So it sucks. It's gloomy, all that. But later on, now you don't got to worry about bills. Now you don't got to worry about paying for anything. Now you can literally buy stuff and not look at the price tag, because you don't care, because you already know you have enough for it. Like, it's easier. You have an easier life if you actually work hard first. So that's the principle that I live by.
I love that. And I think that, for the parents on the line, that, their child, that they may give their child allowance, for doing chores, or like you said, if they're cutting the grass. I know my niece wanted to go into, or has a desire to go into, making lemonade. She makes really, really good lemonade. So, having these, passions that you like to do, or even when you're rewarded for good grades or things like that, following this model, this 50, the 50, 20, 30 model for saving, for your needs, and then for your wants. I think that is definitely a good practice to adopt. And like someone shared on the feed, they made their daughter, save every single thing, half of every single thing that they would receive. And I know I was one of those children that had to save half of every single thing that I got, whether it was through a birthday gift or whatever. I did not like it during that time. But then when you look back over it, you're like, wow, I do have a cushion of some money. So I like that. And I like your other point where it says, it's not easy, but don't let
It'll
it be
pay out.
easy in the beginning. If you work
Yeah.
hard at it now, then in your future, then you can, reap that reward. And so I
Yeah.
liked how you said that, because preparing for the session, I found out that, and I don't know if you know who Warren Buffett is, but
Of course.
he invested he invested his first stock at the age of 11.
Yeah.
And I was so blown away, because at 11, I wasn't even thinking about stocks, or didn't even know what a stock was, or anything
Yeah.
like that. And I think that I also had a conversation with some folks where parents versus giving gifts, right? Versus
Yeah.
giving their children gifts, and the different toys and things like that, they would invest in their financial portfolio at a
Yeah.
young age. So modeling Warren Buffett at the age of 11, investing his first stock, what age should teens really start investing? And so
Mm.
talk a little bit about that.
Um, and that's actually something I learned out here, actually, because I have a few friends as well. Like I have a 15-year-old and he's already a millionaire already. And he trades options as well, just like me. I have another friend, he's 16 and he's already a millionaire. He has his own clothing brand, and he actually has a store in I think it's Pentagon City Mall. He has an actual store, like
Mhm,
like a whole brand for a store. And then I have other friends that are younger too. But one thing that I learned from all of them, if the only exception that I have for taking your money and just spending all of it. So if I give you $10 and you spend all of it, the only exception that I'll give to that is if you invest in yourself. And
mm,
what I mean by that is this. So your personal development. So if you don't have to worry about bills and you don't have to worry about necessities, if you're like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, use that money, save that up, and instead of buying a skateboard, buy a business class, buy an entrepreneurship class, buy
mhm,
a ticket to go to a conference or a mastermind or something like that. And the thing that I've learned, those people at those people that are speaking, or they have their own business, stuff like that, they will literally give you information and they'll literally give you money like far beyond you what you even asked for. Like for example, if you save up, let's say for example, there's like a conference that you can go to that I just went to, it was $500, right? And if you save up $500, you can go to that conference. I actually met a 13-year-old there, and I was really cool with him. He's a really dope entrepreneur too. He was just getting started, because he was in the room, because he was asking, and because he was like he invested to be there. People literally were like, "Hey, how can I help you? I want to get you into this information. I want to show you how to build this business. I want to show you how to make this much money. I want to show you how to do it." They'll literally give you stuff just because you're young. Like they will
mm,
literally give you stuff, because what they're gonna do is they're gonna see what they could have been in you, because they
mm,
didn't start that young. Most people don't start like until they're like in their adult phase too. So the fact that you are starting this young, it's like, wow, you're starting this young and you have this mindset. I'll give you my information. I charge other people 10,000 for this. I'll give it to you for free. And
mhm,
this $10,000 thing might show you how to make 20, 30, 40, $50,000. Like actually, matter of fact, I want to say this too. Every child on this call can make six figures just the way they are. Just because based on the skill set that they have, right, they can easily make six
mm,
figures. Easily. I
mhm,
actually help people at I spoke at a high school recently, Langston Hughes High School in Atlanta. Um, and I spoke to every kid. I was in this auditorium and I asked every single kid in there. They were 17, 18, 16, I believe, too. And I asked them, I said, what is something you can do that I can't do,
mm,
that could help me? So I asked everybody, and I went through everybody, and everybody was like, I don't really think I have anything yet that I can offer that can actually make me a lot of money. So I said, okay. There was a 16-year-old girl, a 17-year-old girl, I believe. She did lashes. Get your
mhm,
lashes done like 50 and
mhm,
$100. So she learned that from like her mom or something like that. She learned how to do it, right? So I'm saying, okay, well, how much could you charge for that? She said 50 to $100 for lashes. I was like, okay, cool, cool. So how many people could you do if you would actually like? How many people can you do with school? Like balance
mhm,
of school, making sure you get your good grades and stuff like that. How many people could you balance? She said five, because it doesn't really take me that long. I said, okay, so you can make $250 to $500 off of just doing lashes for people in one day, right? She was like, yeah, of course. I was like, how many people in the world right now got laid off of their job or they don't have any money and they're broke right now and they could use $500 a day with that new
Mm.
skill set. She was like, wow, I never thought about that. That's a lot of people. And I said, so would you pay $500 to learn how to make $500 a day? And obviously everybody in there was like, of course, if I pay $500 one time and I can make $500 a day, why not? That's a no-brainer. So I
Mhm.
said, so you could charge $500 to teach people how to make $250 to $500 a day. Even if you get 20 people, mind you, there's millions of people that can really use $500 a day. Really, like really, that's a lot of money. So I said, okay, just get 20 people at $500. That's 10K a
Mhm.
month. You can do a month session, and there's 12 months in a year. So 10K, $10,000 times 12 is $120,000 a year. You're 16, 17 years old in high school making six figures. And I
Wow.
did that with everybody because everybody has something special about them. There was a
Mhm.
kid there, he was kind of being a goofball a little bit. He wasn't really paying attention. I said, hey, what are you good at? And he said, well, I could cook you in basketball, basically. I'm like, oh, really? You could beat me in basketball? He was like, yeah, I could beat anybody in basketball. I'm really good at basketball. I said, okay, how many people do you know get bullied or they don't feel fit in because they can't really play basketball that well? They feel like they're not good enough, can't make the team, and they just want to be good at basketball, right? How many people do you know like that? He was like, man, a lot of people, especially at the school, it's a lot of people. I said, okay,
Mhm.
so you have something that some people want. They want to be good at basketball. They want to get this new skill set. They really want to fix their inability to play basketball. So I was like, okay, you can make a 4-week program. You can rent out a basketball gym. There's a local gym near you, 4 weeks, and just have like a class and be like, hey, all this, if you want to learn how to be better in basketball, I'm doing a 4-week session. We're gonna talk about dribbling,
Mhm.
shooting. We're gonna talk about how to pass and how to, I don't know, how to dunk or something like that.
Mhm.
I don't know. For 4 weeks. I'm like, so how you could charge a couple $100 for that, like $250, $300, something like that. Let's say you charge $200 for a 4-week class, which is like a no-brainer for basketball. So $200, and let's say you get, I don't know, 20, 30 people in there. That's about what is that, $4,000 to $6,000 a month or something like that for a four
Wow.
week session.
Mhm.
Off of that, $4,000 to $6,000, and you're still in high school. He was like
Right.
17. I'm like,
Right.
off of a job, you couldn't even do that at any job that you try to hire now because you're young, because you're inexperienced,
Mhm.
because you can't do anything. So using that skill that you already have enough to make money because you just have to figure out how can your gift, your God given a gift, help somebody else. And once you figure
Mhm.
that out, the sky's the limit. And most people have so much to offer. It's insane.
Yeah, and so what I hear you saying is build your craft.
Yes.
Build your craft and invest in yourself. And so
Self.
I know
Yeah.
that there's a lot of people on this line that are talented beyond years.
Yes.
And so it's always something to build, to invest in yourself, believe in yourself. But even for the young folk, build your craft, so if it's my niece that's trying to do her lemonade thing, build that, work towards it. If that's your niche and you make the best doggone lemonade,
Yeah.
work at it, and get the education to really try to build something, even if it's small, continue to work at it and build it until it blossoms. And so it's interesting that you're talking about responsibility,
Yeah.
management, and so forth. And so I want to talk about money management and responsibility,
Yes.
especially now with the advice that you just gave these young people in high school and really trying to crush their craft and
Yeah.
really trying to find ways that they can build and save. Let's talk about what are some methods, because as you begin to work and as you begin to make money, even if you don't have a job and you get
Yeah.
allowances every week, you're accruing more money. So can you talk a little bit about some of the best methods to teach banking
Yeah.
to our young people?
Again, that kind of, I really want, I hate going back to the parents, but the parents really make the difference. So,
Mhm.
like, actually, I learned something. It's called the 4 levels of parenting, and there's like 4 levels. It's basically, so 0 to 4 is when 0 to 4 years old is when you are training your child, basically training them and teaching them like right and wrong, basically. So if they do something, you correct it, like boom, spank their hand, whatever. That's training them. That's 0 to 4. And then 5 to 7 years old, that's when you are in the phase of teaching. That's reasoning. That's the reasoning phase. So training and then reasoning. So after that, you're doing reasoning. So you're giving them reasons why you correct them. So at 5 to 7, that's kind of where most parents reach off. Like, have your child do things and discipline them, like, hey, like for example, if they spend all their money, hey, don't do that. So you train them not to do that. They see repetition, train them, train them, train them. And then after that, you give them the reasoning behind it. Most parents leave off the reasoning. Like, for example, my parents, they left off the reasoning. They would just say, hey, listen to what I say. Like,
Right.
and I'll always ask, like, hey, why do I got to do it? Because I said so. Like, I know it. All the black kids in here, you already know. Like, I mean, you probably already heard that. But like, it's important to have reasoning because there's always a reason behind it. So if they can understand, they can start to understand, like, okay, like my mom didn't just hit me because, like, and they might think you're abusive if you keep tapping their hand when they go on the stove, right? And they'll grow up and think my mom is abusive, my mom is this, my dad is this, my dad is this. But when you give them reasoning, they can start to think and process things like, okay, why did this happen to me? I got popped when I tried to reach the stove because I could have burned myself, I could have hurt myself, I could have had scars that could have been there permanently for the rest of my life. And my parents were protecting me from that by the course of action that they took. Now they can start to think. So now when they actually go through life, now something bad happens to them, it's not like oh, this thing happened to me. It's like, okay, this happened to me. So why? And they can start thinking now. So now you're teaching them to look for reason and not look for a course of action that happened, right? And then after, so 5 to 7, that's when you're giving them the reasoning. And then this is when you give them the space to implement it for themselves. This is 8 to 13. When they're 8 to 13, you want them actually taking the reasoning that they did and you're teaching them through letting them actually implement it for themselves. So they're going out, let's say if you go out to a restaurant, teach them about doing a tip. So say like this, teach them how to do the tip. Like, hey, this is how you do the tip. You give 50%, 20%, whatever it is, and then show them how to do it. And then have them pay the tip sometime. Have them save up so they can make sure whatever they pay for their dinner, make sure they set aside for a tip and train them to do that. So now you train them to discipline them, and then you gave them reasoning on why you did it, and then you let them do it for themselves. That's three steps. And then after 13 to 16 and 18, that's the phase of trust. That's when you kind of let them, do their own thing. That's when you just let them go out into the real world and you can trust them now. So when it comes to banking, for example, you train them, say, hey, you need to make sure you're banking. You need to make sure you do this. Boom, 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 boom. You need to make sure you do it. Repetition. Next is giving them the reasoning behind it. So I want you to do this because of X, Y, and Z, because you can save money here. You can make sure you're organizing where your money is going. You know exactly where your dollar is getting spent or where it's getting saved. And this can help you in the future. So, for example, if you have bills, you have kids, you have things you got to pay for, you're not scrambling for bills, or you're not scared like, dang, how am I going to pay for this? I thought I had the money. You know now to make sure you check your bank account, make sure you organize money properly. Now they can start thinking about it for themselves, and they can use the reasoning. And then from there, as they get older, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, then they're going to start, okay, my mom taught me how to do, my mom said, do this, and this is why. So now I'm more likely to do it. And I'm just going to implement it myself. So that's like the 4 stages, like that'll help them do that for banking and anything in life.
I like that. I like that. And I like the fact of teaching them, training them at a young age,
Yeah.
to do that. And I like how you use the correlation between the levels of parenting to
Yeah.
banking, because oftentimes, they may know how to they may know how to save, they may know how, to handle money and the value of money, but that
Yeah.
banking piece is really critical as far as their future, because then you have, if your parent didn't teach you how to balance the money, then you have overdrafts, or you could potentially get overdrafts. So I think I like how you summed it all up into, it's about teaching, it's about reasoning them, it's about giving them an opportunity to actually implement it within themselves, and
Yeah.
teaching them and giving them opportunities to take their money and, either save it. But then I love the tip. I love what you said about the tip. And so just moving a little forward, since we're talking about banking, I know this
Yeah,
question may be more so for our older teens, but we know that
yeah,
as you get closer and closer to graduating and you go off to college, you know, people want to give you credit cards, you get
yeah.
into debt and so forth. So just spend a few moments on the difference between good debt, bad debt, and how this can impact our young people's future.
Yeah, so I actually went up to a few colleges too, and I mean the amount of people that didn't have credit cards, or the people that did have credit cards but they like blew the money was like a tremendous. So, like what I had to say about that, if you're so for example, if you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you're about to go off to college and you get offered to get a credit card, right? So obviously you're not gonna know like off rip like what are you supposed to do with the credit card? What is it? You don't know that. So there's I recommend if you weren't taught it or you don't know, like study it first, research it first. Like there's plenty of
Mhm,
information. Like even if you tap it with me, like literally I got my first I didn't understand what credit was until I turned 18 for like literally about a couple months ago, a year ago. And now I have like I think I have a 700 something. It was 800, but I started
mhm,
using it to buy mentorship
mhm,
stuff. So now it's like a 700. But I had to understand because for example, my parents didn't teach me like about credit like that. They didn't really teach me
mhm,
like what to do. So, but I knew it was crucial because I saw other people that were using credit and they were really wealthy. They were doing really well. So I was like, okay, I gotta learn this credit thing. But who can I learn it from? Somebody that's actually using credit or somebody that's actually doing credit really well. And that's what happens when you get into the room with different people like that
mhm,
talk about credit, that talk about using other people's money. So for kids that are, 17, 18, 19, if you want to get started with credit, first, do not take action in any way, shape, or form in credit if you don't know what you're doing. So for
mhm,
example, even if you get a credit card and you see that there's like something coming up or something like that, or you want to buy something, if you buy something, if you, I'll just, this is just two simple rules. If you're about to buy something, if you get a credit card and you do get a credit card, cool. If you buy something, pay it off just like a debit card. Treat it just like a debit card if you get a credit card. Treat it just like a debit
mhm,
card. So when you buy something, take money from your bank account, transfer it to the thing, and pay it off, and then just keep it just like that. Treat it just like a debit card until you
mhm,
actually understand it. But I recommend don't even get a credit card until you actually learn about it. But if you do have a credit card, just treat it like a debit card. Buy something with it that you have in your bank account. So not if you oh, I'm gonna
mhm,
have this in my bank account or I'm gonna have this later on. Like no, if you have $500 in your bank account and you make a purchase of, I don't know, $20 or something like that, take $20 out of your bank account, transfer it to your card, pay the card off because that actually helps you boost it too. Because once you actually make a purchase and you pay it off quickly, that'll actually increase and give you points, and that'll
right.
actually allow you to get more credit. And then once you actually know what to do with credit, then you can start getting more credit cards. Then you can start actually doing it. But only do that once you're educated, and you can
Right.
easily just find somebody to help you.
And I think that's so good. And I think somebody in my family used to say that if you have credit, treat your credit card not in those exact words, but if you're charging something, pay it off.
Yeah,
Don't let it linger. But I want you to spend just a quick second, because I
yeah,
like how you said don't do it if you're not educated about it. I
yeah.
want you to talk about the adverse effect to that, though, that
Okay.
for those young people that are uneducated with credit, but yet have credit cards, and the repercussions of when you don't pay it, or if you don't pay it, what happens?
Yeah. So if you don't pay it, my bad. I was turning my engine on
Mhm,
so I could turn the thing. But when you actually, I just turned it off. But when you get, I feel like what happens when you the adverse. There's so many bad things that can happen. So how bad do you want me to go? Like in terms
um,
of how bad it can get.
let's make it PG. Let's do PG,
PG.
the
Okay.
PG
So,
version.
oh, it's not like bad, bad. I
Oh, I
mean
know,
just
I know,
like
I know.
extreme. Like I had to say, okay, so a regular credit card mishap would be okay. I'm trying to think of something. Let's say you get a $2,000 credit card, something like that, right? And then let's say you like, oh, I got this credit card. I'm gonna go to this concert. I'm gonna go on this trip. I'm gonna go book a flight here, I'm gonna go do this, and then you max that thing out to 2,000, something like that. It's like, all right,
Mm,
cool, I already spent all this money basically. Now you got to make payments to that card now because now you owe money, so now you got to start paying that thing down. It's basically like a mortgage. The same way, credit card is basically like a mortgage. On a mortgage, you hear your parents say, "I got to pay this rent, or I got to pay the mortgage." That they're paying down what they're owed to that to stay in that place or to stay in that home or to own it, right? So even with cars, you have to pay it down. Like when you own a car, you have to, if you don't buy it out full, you have to pay it down. Credit cards are the same way. So if you max out a card and you can't pay that thing down, they're basically going to, I forgot what happens basically for cars like that you max out like that. But you're probably most likely, if you don't have enough money to pay for it, you're going to have late payments on your credit, which will literally destroy that thing. It'll probably drop it down. So 850 is like the highest, and like 300, I think 300 or
mhm,
400, something like that is like one of the lowest. You'll probably be down at 500, 400 if you
mhm.
have a lot of late payments. And that stuff is something, those really affect you. So, and
Right.
your utilization will be high, which utilization is how much you use on the card. So if you use the whole amount, your utilization is going to be like really, really high. So
Right.
that's not good, obviously, because it's like,
Right.
for
Absolutely.
example, if you have a friend and they like, hey, can I borrow $100, something like that? And you know that they owe everybody a lot of money, basically. It's like you're not gonna give it to them. Like, why the heck would I give you more money if you already owe this much? Like, heck no. And you'll deny them because they already owe a lot of money. Credit cards are the same way. If you owe a lot of money on your cards, you're less likely going to get approved for more credits, for loans, stuff like that, because
Mhm.
you can't be trusted with the amount of money that you do have, right?
Mm.
So those are some adverse effects, like of just
I
not
like
understanding
that.
credit.
I, and it's so interesting because as a teen, it's so easy to get caught up in the peer pressure of trying to, keep up with your peers, or, buying things that you necessarily don't need or afford. But for those young people that are on the line, how can you help them avoid that, or being in that space of where, their parents may not have it? And so they may
Yeah,
not be in a position where they get allowances and things like that, or,
yeah.
even if the little money that they do have, how can they avoid the pressures of trying to keep up with their peers, and try to buy things that they can't afford necessarily?
Um, this is gonna some kids gonna be they're gonna be their feelings gonna be hurt. But if the people the people that do get allowances, that kids that do get allowances are more likely gonna be they're gonna most likely be worse off if they're just getting paid not to do any work or anything. Like they're just getting paid
Mm,
and they're not doing anything with it. They're most likely gonna be worse off than the people that actually have to work for it. If you don't get paid an allowance, that's actually a blessing because now if you're surrounded by people that's doing a whole bunch of stuff, you're not gonna think about, dang, I don't got enough money. I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing. It's like, all right, how can I get that money? They're not gonna pay me, so who's gonna pay me? Like,
mhm,
where is the allowance that I should be quote unquote owed? And where's that money gonna be found? That's when you have people start making, like for me, my parents, they did not, to a certain extent, I kept getting in trouble so much I didn't even get an allowance. And
mhm,
I just couldn't do it. And I just didn't do chores right. I just tried to do it my way, I was,
mhm.
you know. So in school, they didn't give me like some of the snacks that I wanted. They didn't really give me money, allowances, or snacks. So I was like, dang, I really wish I had Pop Tarts, or I wish I had this, or I wish I had that. Because I see everybody else just going and getting out the store and stuff like that. But I didn't have money because I didn't have a job. And they didn't let me have a job. So I was
Mhm,
like, well, I gotta get this money some way. So here's what I said. So I started thinking of ways, and I'm like, okay, what's some ways I can make money? And I was like, maybe I could sell candy snacks and stuff at school. Even though, and again, don't do this if it's not, you know what I'm saying, like you're not supposed to. But yeah, I was just down bad. I just needed it, so I just did it anyway.
mhm,
But do not do this for kids. Do not do this stuff. So I would go and buy snacks like at a cheaper place, like maybe Costco, maybe
mhm,
like I think I went to like 7-Eleven to maybe like a Dollar General or something like that,
mhm,
and get candy, chips, snacks, stuff like that for cheap, and I would resell it for like a dollar or two more at school. And
mm,
I would save that money, save that stuff up, and then I would buy some more, like tremendously more snacks with that. Those snacks with me saving enough to buy, like for example, let's say I buy $20 worth of, let's say, boxes of Pop Tarts. So let's say I get 5 boxes of Pop Tarts for $20 basically, and each box has 6 Pop Tarts in it. So I spend $20, and I got 5 boxes of 6 Pop-Tarts in it. So I sell each one for $1, right? That means I can make $30 in profit off of that. I mean, not
Absolutely.
$10. I can make $30 and then $10 of that is profit. Now I can take that money and then what do? I reinvest it, so I get more Pop-Tarts. So now I can get instead of 5 boxes instead of 5 boxes for $20, I could probably get maybe like 6 or 7 boxes now, and now I make more money. And then from there, I just keep doing it until I can still buy boxes and make enough money to go buy some more. And then I take some of that money out, and then I can go buy what I want. The small little bit of money I make, then I can go buy what I want. So then I just did that to a extent where I was making money, and I could take that money, and I can also I supply it myself because I actually got snacks that I like too. And I would just get the snacks. So I got the honey buns, I had the drinks, everything that I like. And then I can have it. I don't got to worry about my parents getting it for me because I can get it now. I can get it now, and I can also save money and then use that money and keep reinvesting it, and then just growing it from there.
Good.
So that's what I did. So if you don't get an allowance, that's a blessing, because now any situation where you don't get something or you lack, you will always get blessed in being able to think. So, for example, like actually, somebody actually said, it was like, I think he was one of the richest men in the world. It was Andrew Carnegie. He said the best thing that can happen for a child is for him to be born into poverty. And the reason he said that is because kids that are born into poverty, or kids that are born homeless, or they get not homeless, but like they're born, they don't really have much. They have to work for things. So they have to start thinking. They have to. Otherwise, they won't be able to make it, right? Steve Harvey, for example, he was homeless twice, but now you got to pay God knows how much, like 100,000, 200,000 to talk to him, like individually, or to get him onto a show. Or he's in Africa now. He's a billionaire now, I believe. Like, but he was homeless, so he came from a very bad place. So he had to think. He had to work harder. He had to think smarter. He had to chase his dreams. So if you don't get something or you lack something, use that as motivation to start thinking more of how you can, because you can.
I like that. I like that. And so we have a few more questions, but I want to kind of I have some questions that are tailored for the parents, but specifically for the youth. We've talked about saving, budgeting, balancing, banking, credit.
Yeah.
What are give us a few tips, maybe 1 or 2 tips that young people should adopt if they want to be on a financial journey and embark upon this journey of saving, investing. Give us about 2 tips that they can walk away with today.
2 tips for characteristics that can help them with, like, building wealth and making
Yep,
money.
things that they can start doing.
Dang, 2? That's dang. I'm
3.
trying to think. There's a good amount I can think of, but I'd have to say, gosh, because children have so many good qualities. I'd have to say have the characteristic of curiosity
Mm,
and determination.
mm,
So for me, I always ask questions. Like, for example, if my parents told me to do, they would, like, for example, they tell me to go iron clothes, I would ask myself, how can I get this done faster but still get the job done so they'll be satisfied? So I'll take my clothes. This is the hack for you guys too. I take my clothes, put them in the dryer, put it on firm press for like 30 minutes, 20 minutes or so. Take them out, make sure I wring them out, hang them up on the hanger. They're wrinkle free. I didn't got to iron. I didn't got to spend time working, and I still got the same job done. And I can go
mhm,
play the game, do whatever while those things are drying. I can go down there, hang them up, and I'm good. Like, because that came from curiosity of me
mhm,
thinking of ways of how I can do something better, and determination of, I know they told me to do this, but I'm gonna still get it done, but I'm gonna do it in a smarter way. Like, for
right.
example, if your parents tell you to work, like, or get a job or something like that, the reason they tell you to get a job most likely is because they want you to get money. So it's like, instead of saying, okay, I don't want to get money, it's like, what are some other ways of getting money? Don't just settle for one way, because there's so many more ways. There's never just one way to do something ever in
Mhm,
life. Like, there's so many, like, for example, there's so many ways you can make $1 million. There's so many ways you could save money. There's so many ways you can invest money. Like, there's no right answer or wrong answer, but in order to find the answer, you have to be curious. So
absolutely.
I'd have to say curiosity and determination. If you have those two characteristics, you will go far.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I absolutely love that. And so as we shift just a little bit, we talked about allowance, and I know, you said your parents didn't give you allowance
Yes.
when you were growing up, but do you feel, or for those parents that may be looking to give their kids an allowance, a lot of times I've heard sometimes parents don't know the appropriate amount
Yes.
to give their child, but share a little bit about what you think from your perspective, what would be an appropriate amount to give a child to help them manage their money on a weekly basis.
How old is the child?
Let's say, let's group it with under 5 first, and then under 10, and then over 10. Or
Okay,
let's
so
just say under 10 and then over 10.
Yeah. So under 5. Dang, that's interesting.
Or they
So,
shouldn't get an allowance at 5.
well, I don't know. I mean, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You know where that money gonna go though? That's gonna go to them Skittles that they see. It's gonna go to them toys. It's gonna go. Well, it might go to toys, but if they're 5, yeah, it's probably going to toys and candy. So, I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you want them to have that, so that's fine. But I'd have to say, well, if they're 5, then $5 per thing that you have them do. So, for example, you have them make the bed, and then go to school, and then maybe get good grades. Like
Mm-hmm.
those 3 things. So if you have those 3 things, you'll get $15 or something like that at 5. And if you're under 10, then I'd have to say probably group it by age for like if you're 10, like you get 10. So $10
Mm-hmm.
per thing that you do right. So you could either do it per chore or per day that you get all the chores done. I'd have to say get all the chores done. And also make sure you tell them that no matter what, like for example, that you don't care how it gets done, what order, as long as it's done. If you
Mm-hmm.
tell that to them, that'll allow them to think. So they'll still get it done. So now if they don't get it done, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, it's a problem. Now you have 50 million ways to get it done. You still didn't get it done. So you
Right.
had the time to think. So give them room to think about it, but probably pay them for getting everything done. So like for example, if you give them 5 things to do, like do the dishes, take the dog out, vacuum, I don't know, get your homework done, and then um, I don't know, like feed the dog, something like that. Let's say those 5 things. So if you got those 5 things and they're done with that, that you can give them like I don't know, $10 or something like that for the day. And then I
Right.
mean, $10 a day is like not that bad for 10 years old. I mean, yeah. So that's pretty good.
Maybe start off maybe with half. I know growing
Maybe
up,
half of
I
that.
got
Yeah,
half of my age, right?
yeah,
Um, okay, but parents can use that. Parents can use that at their discretion, and
yeah,
what is suitable for them to give their child allowance. But as we are talking about financial literacy, what are
yeah.
some creative ways that parents can make it fun for their children to teach? How can they make learning about money, learning about finances fun?
Um, the only way you make anything fun is by connecting to him or her,
Mhm,
through over what they like. So, for example,
mhm,
if I'm talking to somebody about financial literacy, they don't really care. But like for example, when I went to the high school, I appealed to every what they're good at and what they like. That guy liked the basketball, so I said I'm gonna appeal to that. I'm gonna touch into his emotions to
mhm,
figure out how I'm gonna shift his mindset to thinking like that. And
mhm,
I was able to do it by relating to him. So if
mhm,
you want them to like take financial literacy seriously, then you have to tie it to something that they already know. So for
mhm,
example, if you say like for example, if their kid likes Dora, for example,
mhm,
if Dora is going over to this bridge, she has to pay to get across he has to pay the person to get across the toll. If Dora makes if she has to pay $40 and she makes $20 per time she cuts grass, something like that, how many times do she have to cut the grass in order to go pay the guy off? She was like, oh
mhm.
yeah, she has to cut 2 grasses. Yes, you can cut 2 grass. So correlate it to what they like. So and that's another thing. So sometimes as parents, we just want them to do what we're told because it's like almost like a respect thing. Like we just want them to do what they're told. But kids are stubborn. I mean, kids they're really stubborn. The reason why they'll listen to their best friend and not listen to their parent for the exact same thing that the parent is telling them to do anyway, is because they can relate to that best friend. They can relate.
Mhm.
So if they can't
Mhm.
relate to the parent, they're not going to listen. It's not about what's being said. It's about the connection to the reasoning or the story or the person in which the message is being delivered. So if you want
Absolutely.
to teach them that financial literacy, connect it to what they like.
Absolutely. I like that. And so just as we begin to wrap up, for parents who are want to develop savings plans,
Yeah.
and really take the time to invest in their children's future. What are some things that they can do, even through your platform? What are some things that they can do to really begin saving for a better future for their children?
That's a good question. So, is the parent still working? I assume they're still working.
Yes.
They still have the job and stuff. Um, I'll give them two ways. One way, it'll make them less money, but it's still going to be a better way of doing it. It's still a good way of doing it, and the second way makes them the most. But let's do the first. So, if you are working still, then take the money that you have as your job that you're getting from there. Again, so that goes back to your budgeting too. So it's like, all right, if you're an adult and you got kids and you want to invest for them, set aside a portion of your income or your bills to invest in that child. So for example, let's say
Mhm.
you invest in a custodial account for them, or you invest into a custodial account is like a account with like children's supervision over their money, and you can put money into their account and invest in some stock, or you can invest in some crypto, or you can invest in an NFT, or you can invest in um I'm trying to think of some other things you can invest in. There's a lot of things you can invest in actually. You can invest in like real estate investment trusts, like REITs, which are basically stocks for real estate, and you can get paid dividends from those stocks and stuff. And you can just keep doing that over and over and over again and let that compound.
Mhm.
That's one way of doing it. So that just taking out of the money that you get for your job and then budgeting it aside so you can save that money for them. And the best way to make a lot of money for your kids is through your kids,
Mm.
because no matter how you cut it or skin the cat, they will always. Because I've witnessed some, like for example, I've been given, I'd have to say probably, I have to say probably maybe $12,000 worth of just information, or even if it's money or resources, from people that are older than me just because I'm young. And mind you, I was only 18, 17. Imagine if I was 13 or 12 or 11 or 10
Mhm.
talking thinking the same way I do now. You're more inclined to do something. So for example, a Girl Scout can be at the corner selling Girl Scout cookies, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, of course I would love to buy one." But if she's 30, it's like, "What the heck are you doing? Go get a job. Like, what are you too old to be doing that, right?"
Uh-huh.
So the younger you are, the more you're going to be compensated by life, by people, the more you're going to be supported. So the best way for them for you want to save for them is by them like getting a business with them. So for example, having them start a business, having them start something, having them teach people, having them, like for example, if they're good at gaming, have them create like a gaming community where they teach them, or they have like a monthly subscription thing for everybody in that community
Mm.
to do challenges and tournaments and stuff. So that way they can start monetizing what they actually do, and they can
Mhm.
take that money. Let's say your kid is like plays games all the time, right? You're like, get off that game. You're always playing that game. Instead of saying get off the game, saying if you're going to keep playing this game, you got to be making money from it. So how we going? What we going to do? You want to make a community? You want to teach people how to do it? You want to make a mentorship program? Whatever it is. So if you
Right.
playing, I don't know, NBA 2K, and you're really good at NBA 2K. Okay, there's people that aren't good at NBA 2K, or they want to get better, or they want to progress, or they want to join tournaments so they can make money. You can make a Discord community, which is like a platform where you can like make a community of people and get them in
Mhm.
there. You could charge maybe, let's say, I don't know, like $10 a month or something like that to people, and then you can get a whole bunch. You can get your whole classmates to do it. Let's say you get
Right.
10. Let's say you get, matter of fact, let's say you get 100 people, because it's 100 people. It's at $10 a month. Like who wouldn't do that? They do that for Netflix. You get 100 people of different kids that play games and play the same game as you. You can meet them and say, "Hey, I have this community of training and stuff like that, and people that play 2K. Let's join together, and we can do." We can team up and do games together. We can team up and do tournaments together. We can team up and practice together. And you have a community. It's $10 a month. That's it.
Right.
Like $10 a month. That's $120 a year. Easy. So now you got 100 people paying you $10 a month. That's 1,000 a month just for playing a video game, and that's one
Wow.
day. That's not even multiple. So that your kid, can really make $1,000 a month just doing what they're doing now, just figuring out a way of monetizing it. And then you take that money, instead of setting aside, let's say you're only setting aside $200 a month for your kid. Now your kid is using their gift and their natural born talent that God put inside of them. And now they're actually using that and helping
Mhm.
other people and giving value to other people. Now they're getting paid for that gift, and you can take that money and start investing that. Now, if you invest in what, $1,000 a month, that can be a lot of money. If you invest in like a Roth IRA or the S&P 500 index, you get a 20% return every single year, something like that, 10 to 20% return. You put $1,000 a month over and over again until they get 18. They're gonna have 5, 6 figures in their account off of not you but them. I mean, they paid
Mhm.
themselves, but you're
Mhm.
just taking and leveraging what they do and just managing their money for them. So now you might, instead of taking the whole 1,000, you might give them like, I don't know, 200, 300, 400, $500 or something like that. And you take, again,
Mhm.
half, which is still more than what you probably would have put in anyway. And now you're still saving that. So the first way is using your job that you're working at now, taking money aside from that, budgeting it, saving it for your kid. And the second way is understanding and learning what your kids' gifts are and learning how that could be a blessing to somebody else or how they can use
Mhm.
that to monetize it.
I love that. I love that. And so, Sean, you have been dropping nuggets all evening. And I truly want to thank you for your knowledge. Even as an entrepreneur, you have definitely, I hope, young people on the line have been inspired by, just sharing. But one final question.
Yeah.
Why is this important to you? Why is helping, in your platform, you work to help people every day, build wealth. Why is that important to you?
Um, I feel like it's important to me for two reasons. So one, I get a thrill out of being the one that's helping somebody, or the one, like, for example, like in school, if you was like, oh, Sean put me on to this, or Sean put me on to this thing right here, it's like, oh yeah, I helped put on to that. You know what I'm saying? That's cool.
Mhm.
So I feel good about that. So it's just fueled by that, and also just fueled by, I know so many people that everybody has 6 and 7 figure potential inside of them already before they even get my course on options, before they even learn from me on how to like use their money and basically make money with the market. Like they already have that ability, but they don't know it yet. So it's almost like I
Mm,
feel proud because it's like, wow, they're so, and I feel like it's my job because I am so young now that I have to connect to these people. I have to connect to these young adults. I have to connect to these young teenagers. I have to connect to these people that have like-minded thinking, or they want better. They just don't know how. Because the how is
mhm.
easy, but the want to and the drive, that's hard. So I just want, so my
Absolutely.
goal is just to inspire people to do that.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us where we can find more information. We know that you're passionate about, helping to unlock all of this potential, this six and
Yes.
seven figure potential within our young people. How can they learn more about you and your platform?
Of course. So, I mean, you can follow me on CEO of Sean on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, like pretty much everything. CEO ASHON. And you can also go to my website, GenZenterprises.com. And I actually have my courses and everything that I use to teach people as well, like young people as well, how to actually start making money with this new skill set. And I'm actually creating a new course in a mentorship group for young people specifically, to actually show them how they can actually take their gifts and literally use it to literally make 6 and 7 figures while they're still in school. So now,
Mhm.
instead of watching NBA players make a lot of money, they can actually literally make a lot of money but still be in school. Like, and then from
I
there they
love
can
it.
grow exponentially faster. So that's what I'm actually concocting now, and I'm actually building that. So definitely stay tuned for
Awesome.
that.
Awesome. And you have something coming up next week though, too,
I
right?
do. Yes, I do. Yes.
Come on,
I
share
actually
with the
have a
people.
yes, I have a master class coming up, and what I'm gonna do is teach people how to basically get started with trading options, the nuances of it, how they get started, and I just want to teach people like just what the stock market is, because I've seen so many people, they don't know what it is. They don't know what options is. They don't know what the stock market is. So the class is basically meant to inform people and also teach people the potential of it and what they could do with it. And that's basically what the platform is going to be. So actually, if you go on my Instagram, actually, I think it's still up. And the link is actually in my bio for Instagram. So you can go to 𝐶EOASHON and you can check it out and see if I still have spots available. But yeah, it's pretty much for everybody. So yeah, you can definitely come. And I hope I give everybody value there, because I'm actually making some new updates. I actually spent all night yesterday making some updates to the webinar that I was going to do basically on Sunday.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to make sure it was perfect.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Ashan, it has been a pleasure just watching you morph into this grown man, this boss, the CEO that's literally killing it, from knowing you when you were in your mama's stomach. So it has been a pleasure. Not only have you dropped nuggets for these young people, I have my notes over here. I'm like, okay. But I want to thank you so much for your yes and for
Of course.
sacrificing your time to share with us on today. So we will be on the lookout for the great things that you guys are doing, that you're doing. So everyone, please make sure that you are following CEO Ashan as well as Uncut Youth LLC. I promise you this will not be the last time that you hear from Ashan. So we want to thank you for
Yes.
joining us on tonight, and you guys have a great evening.
See you
Bye,
guys.
everyone.